turn off the live chat, then I go back to sermon audio, check the audio, do all of that. So we'll get started here in just a second. It's a nice warm day here in West Texas. I love that. There goes the notification. All right, jump over to YouTube really quick. Opening up YouTube. Oh, wait, we have a notification on YouTube. What do you think? 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 I'm going to click on it. Oh, we're good to go. Nothing about us at all. A lot about what started around 3 o'clock in the morning with the situation in Venezuela. I don't even want to talk about that. So, yeah. Maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. Right now, we need to do this. We have a problem. The situation in Venezuela. I don't even want to get. Okay, we sound okay there. Turning off the live chat. All right, that's good to go. Go back over here to sermon audio. I'm going to go here to sermon audio. I'm going to jump over here to live webcast. And there are currently, well, there's a wedding. So you can watch a wedding. Or you have two other broadcasts, Covenant Presbyterian Church, they started 3 minutes ago, and Reformed Congregation of New Something 8 minutes ago. So all of these webcasts are relatively new. The wedding's been going on for 14 minutes if you would like to go watch that. So you have 3 things to choose from, and then you have me. The Theology Central podcast. I don't know. Do you choose the Theology Central podcast, or does the Theology Central podcast choose you? I don't know. All right. Oh, wait. Let's see how we sound. Hang on. How do we sound? Central podcast. All right. All right. We have, there's North Kakalaki. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I always appreciate that. North Carolina, always there. I do appreciate that. 2 from Texas. I'm assuming those 2 are me because I clicked on the YouTube link. I clicked on the sermon audio link to check the audio. So basically, it's North Carolina. Thank you. No, there may be other people listening. Sometimes the numbers are a little behind. But wherever you may be listening, however you may be listening, if you may be listening, thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate it. And I'm hoping this goes well. Oh, I'm hoping this goes well. All right, you ready, ladies and gentlemen? Let's get started. All right, are you ready? Let me go here. Ladies and gentlemen, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Looking at our world from a theological perspective, this is the Theology Central podcast, making theology central.
Houston, we have a problem. We have a big problem, Houston. And not just in Houston, we have a big problem. Well, it doesn't matter which state, it doesn't matter which country, it doesn't matter which continent you may find yourself. We have a problem. No. I'm not talking about the problem. If you're watching the news right now, we're not even going to talk about that mess right now. And when I give you the date and the time, you'll know what I'm referring to as far as referring to the news. I'm not even going to mention it, but we have a different kind of problem. We have a Boaz problem. A Boaz problem. Now, I know if you go to church, you don't think there's a problem with Boaz, but I think we have a Boaz problem, and that's what we're going to try to fix, and we're going to be talking about it right after I say, good afternoon, everyone. It is Saturday, January the 3rd, 2026. It is currently 3:08 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio, located right here in Abilene, Texas. Now, Oh, I don't even know what to say. I feel so conflicted and discombobulated and stuck and like, wait, how did I end up here? I have other things I need to do, right? We need to finish working on the Taylor Swift album, right? The biggest album of 2025. We need to finish looking at that. The goal was to finish it before the calendar said 2026. We did not get to that. And then I thought it was something simple. I thought it was something easy, right? I'm like, okay, what do I do? I need to do a podcast episode. Oh, here's a sermon entitled, If You Would Take a Break, You Would Be More Busy. If you would take a break, you would be more busy. Oh, this is one of those kind of motivational kind of sermons so that I can learn how to be more busy. I can be more productive in 2026. Okay, that'll be fun to review. Wait a minute. This sermon is using Ruth chapter 2. Wait, how did this happen? How did Ruth chapter 2 become about me being more busy? What's going on? Wait a minute. Ruth chapter 2 verse 7 talks about, and she prayed, and I'm going to read it. Ruth chapter 2 verse 7, and she prayed, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came and hath continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little in the house. And then all of a sudden the house becomes the church. Wait, what is going on? This is symbolism, typology, allegory. What is going on? So I decided to review the sermon. We did not make it super far. It was a mess. It was a theological, it was a hermeneutical just disaster. It was a train wreck in so many different ways. I didn't even bother to finish the entire sermon, even though in some ways I feel like we should. But then I thought, you know what? When it comes to the book of Ruth, you got a lot of hermeneutical things going on. So I turned on the microphone and I said, okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's work through Ruth chapter 1. Let's work through it, right? Let me show you how to understand the book of Ruth. It is a historical narrative, but if you're really going to understand it from a hermeneutical perspective, you have to see it as a theological narrative because there is a lot going on in this text. Not in a symbolic typology kind of way, but what we would refer to as a theological narrative. So we did that and we finished the entire chapter. And I'm like, okay, do we go to chapter 2? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And I opened up chapter 2, verse 1, and I read these words, and Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of his family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. Now let me see if I can read that again without stumbling through it. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And as soon as I read that, I was like, oh boy, what do we do here? And I immediately knew if I approach this, if I even try to deal with this problem, because as soon as I read Boaz, I see a problem. And maybe there's not a problem for you. There's probably not a problem for most of Christianity. In fact, I dare say, if you go look up all the sermons on Sermon Audio that mentions Boaz or handles Ruth chapter 2, they're all going to act like there's only one way to understand it, only one way to interpret it. There's not going to be any problem, but I don't see how they can do so without stumbling into the problem. And it bothers me because no one in the pulpit seems to see the problem. And everyone sitting in the pew just accepts what they hear from the pulpit as if it's just factual. And I think there is a problem. Maybe the problem is going to be for me because I'm about to go, I don't think there's any way to say this. I'm about to go against 99% of Christianity. I won't say 100%, but it's probably 100%. And it's not that I just want to be difficult, but sometimes I just don't get what the church does hermeneutically. I just don't understand it. In many cases, it doesn't even make any sense logically. So are you ready to jump into the Boaz problem? Are you ready? All right. So let's work through this. All right. And I'm going to, so let me, okay. Just as I did with Ruth chapter 1, with the Boaz problem, I'm going to do the same thing. I know I could formulate all of these into a nice, put together sermon, right? Well, I could just preach it. I could be authoritative. I could be dogmatic. I could use cross references. I could have 3 points, a good introduction, a good conclusion, and it would come together. And I could even upload it, and people are like, that was an amazing sermon. I never heard anything like that. But I like to take you through the whole hermeneutical struggle, through asking questions and stumbling through it, because I want you to be a part of the process, because it's not about you hearing another sermon. It's about you learning how to do hermeneutics for yourself, how to handle the text for yourself, how to see how to pull back the curtain and show you how you do hermeneutics, not just someone telling you, this is the way you should interpret the text. And I know many of you prefer the sermon approach, right? Just give me the sermon. I don't want to be taken back behind the curtain and struggle through all of it. But that's the way I do things. And now sometimes I may put it together in a sermon, but we're going to work through this, okay? And I am so conflicted in exactly how to put all of this together. But hey, you're about to walk into a major, I'll call it my hermeneutical hypotheses, but and then we'll see where it goes. So are you ready? Are you ready to do some work? Now, if you cannot take notes, that's okay. Pay close attention. You may want to go back and listen later. If you can, a notebook, a Bible, and mainly just, put your thinking caps on and let's dig in. Now, Ruth chapter 1 introduces the problem, not the Boaz problem. It introduces the problem of the entire book of Ruth, all right? Ruth is not a love story, even though people like to make it out that. Something else is going on. It introduces the problem. And a lot of people, I think, don't understand the real problem, okay? The story opens, Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled. There is the problem, all right? This phrase, all right? Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled. That phrase carries the theological it carries the theological weight. It carries us right to the problem. Because if you look at, in the days when the judges ruled, you immediately start thinking about, Judges, maybe chapter 21, verse 25, which is how the book of Judges ends. And we read, in those days, there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. Now, if you're just reading this straight through, you read Judges 21:25, you turn the page. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled. Ruth 1 opens up with the problem, not the Boaz problem, but the problem. And the problem is there is no king and everyone is doing what is right in their own eyes. There is no king in Israel. All right. And then it goes on to explain, not only is there no king in Israel, right? There is covenant disorder. I think is a good way to describe it. There's covenantal chaos. Because in Deuteronomy 28 through 30, it gives clear words to Israel. Hey, if you do this, if you obey, if you follow the law, you get blessings, blessings, blessings. If you don't, crops are not going to grow. There's not going to be rain. Basically, there's going to be famine, which what happens? Now, it came to pass in those days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land. There was no king. There is no covenant. Israel's not being faithful to the covenant. They are getting the curses that is going to come upon them. So we have covenantal chaos. We have famine. We have death. And all of this is just like, it's right there. It's all provided to us right there. So Ruth kind of establishes almost immediately in the book of Ruth that Israel's without a king. There's covenantal instability, and there is a threatened future. Well, because as you start reading Ruth 1, people start dying, all right? People start dying, all right? The husband, the sons, people start dying, okay? So that could be problematic, okay? So, and I'll make it very clear, what I'm doing here, I'm not imposing any theology.
This is explicit biblical content. Ruth gives us the problem. There is no king. Israel's not being faithful to the covenant. Therefore, judgment and condemnation is coming upon them. But then look at how the book ends. Ruth chapter 4, verse 21. And Solomon begat Boaz, and Boaz begat Obed, and Obed begat Jesse, and Jesse begat David. What is the last word of the book of Ruth? David. Oh, wait a minute. That it doesn't end with Boaz.
It ends with David. All right?
It does not end with any kind of redemption, in a sense, being accomplished. It ends with genealogy. Boaz fathered Obed, and Jesse fathered David. Now why is this so decisive? Why is this so important? Well, if you look at it from the perspective of the full canon of Scripture, David is the king God is going to establish the Davidic covenant with. David is the king that God is going to establish the Davidic covenant with. What is the problem? There is no king. It ends with the word David, who is going to be the king that God is going to establish the Davidic covenant with. That covenant, the Davidic covenant, leads forward to the ultimate king. And the New Testament makes it explicit. Look at Luke chapter 1, verse 32. Luke chapter 1, verse 32. Luke 1:32. And speaking of I'll look at verse 31. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb and bring forth a son. He shall call his name Jesus. He shall be great. He shall be called the Son of the Highest. And the Lord God shall give him the throne of his father David. Ruth gives us the problem. There is no king in the land. Everyone's doing what is right in their own eyes. There is not covenantal faithfulness. They are getting the curse that comes from not being obedient to the covenant. There's a problem. It ends with the word David, which is king, who receives the Davidic covenant, which leads to the ultimate king, who will sit on the throne of his father David, which is Jesus Christ. That's what everyone seems to miss here with the book of Ruth. So Ruth ends in a sense, in a roundabout way, with the solution promised, or the solution being pointed to. It ends with the securing of the Davidic line, not with the final fulfillment, but saying, hey, there is no king, but a king is coming. A king is coming. But then, wait a minute. Well, how did we get to, go back to Ruth. How do we get in the days when the judges ruled? There's famine, there's death, there's just everything's going wrong. It ends with David. Well, how do we get from here to here? Well, Ruth introduces the means to this. Not necessarily, it's not introducing the solution, but the means to get us from there is no king to David. And what is that? Well, when you open up your Bible to Ruth chapter 2, verse 1, here becomes the means that is offered. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth of the family of